It was a typical morning until the unmistakable screech of a white Mercedes tore through the peace of my property. I was working on my 150-year-old cabin, chainsaw buzzing away at the rotting boards, when out of nowhere, Delilah Thornwick, the president of the local HOA, stormed up my dirt road. Red-faced, as if she'd just been set on fire, she screamed that I was destroying her son's inheritance. As if I needed more drama in my life. I let the chainsaw die down and let the silence take over. The only sound was her panting like a steam engine and the sweet scent of pine filling the air between us. "Lady, I bought this place fair and square," I told her, trying to keep calm. She actually laughed. "A county auction doesn't erase a century of family history, Marcus." Poor Delilah didn't know the basement document I had tucked away was about to wreck her entire world. The documents from 1873 that show my family had owned half the valley, and her family had been squatting on it illegally for 50 years. But let me back up and tell you how I got to this point. My name's Marcus Holloway, and 6 months ago, my life fell apart. My 20-year marriage? Gone. The suburban dream house we built? Sold to pay for divorce lawyers who charged more per hour than I made in a day. But hitting rock bottom sometimes gives you a chance to really find your footing. My grandfather always said, "Work with your hands and you'll never starve." When he passed, he left me his tools and $37,000 with a note, "Build something that matters." So that night, I was scrolling through county auction listings at 2 a.m. when I found it. The 1873 log cabin estate in Millbrook Valley. I could smell the potential. The place was a mess, but it was solid. History was in those beams. Auction day came, and I won it with my bid of $47,000, beating out some spoiled rich kid in a BMW who probably begged mommy for more cash. Clean title, verified paperwork, and the deed was mine. And then, of course, here comes Delilah. 3 days into my renovation, I was replacing the rotted porch boards when she shows up in a pristine Escalade. She steps out, all designer jeans and perfect hair, like she's the queen of the valley. "Excuse me, I'm Delilah Thornwick, president of the Millbrook Estates HOA. My husband Dean owns Thornwick Construction. Perhaps you've heard of us." I wiped sawdust off my flannel. "Marcus Holloway," I said. "What can I help you with?" "Well, Marcus," she said, giving me a smile so fake I almost gagged, "this property has complications." She went on about some so-called gentleman's agreement her son Bradley had with the previous owner, Mr. Henderson, about inheriting the land. I pulled out my deed and showed her that, according to the county, Henderson died without heirs, which is why the property went to auction. Her smile vanished quicker than a snowman in July. She said, "This property belongs with people who understand its significance." She eyed my boots like I was some kind of peasant, which, by the way, I wasn't. That's when I realized Delilah Thornwick wasn't just mad that she lost the land. She was declaring war on me. She was going to make my life miserable. And believe me, she started right then and there. It didn't take long before things went downhill fast. Week 2 rolled around and I got a phone call that made my coffee taste like ashes. "Mr. Holloway," said Janet from the county building department, "we seem to have misplaced your renovation permits." Misplaced? Right. Like they just grew legs and walked away. I went down to the county office, where Janet handed me a pile of paperwork so thick it looked like a small-town phone book. "This will take weeks to process," she said. 2 days later, the building inspector showed up at my place, unannounced. "Got complaints about unauthorized work," he said, like I was building a meth lab in the middle of a national park. I hadn't done anything except the work I'd already legally permitted. The worst part? The inspector gave me a citation for $2,300, claiming I had violated historical structure modification rules and improperly disposed of waste. The inspector's evidence? A pile of timber I burned in my backyard. Well, it wasn't just timber, it was seasoned wood, and it wasn't against the law. By the time I got back to my cabin, I had a sinking feeling in my stomach. That's when I remembered something my grandfather used to say. When someone's cheating, they're probably breaking their own rules, too. Time to dig into some records. I spent hours in the county archives, my fingers covered in ink as I dug through dusty old files. And what I found made me laugh out loud. I discovered the original 1873 land grant, showing that my family owned the entire valley and the Thornwicks. They've been living on my land for over 50 years. The kicker? The document was signed by the territorial governor himself, and it was authenticated as genuine. I called my lawyer, Eleanor, to confirm the find. The documents proved that the Thornwicks had illegally occupied my land, which included rights to timber, water, and mineral resources, and if the rumors were true, there were natural gas deposits here that could turn me into a millionaire. Eleanor, sharp as a whip, started working on a legal strategy. We filed a lawsuit to reclaim my land, but Delilah wasn't backing down. Her campaign of harassment went into overdrive. I started getting anonymous complaints about my property. A county health inspector showed up, then a fire marshal, all investigating concerns like unsafe burn piles and hazardous waste. It was clear as day that Delilah was pulling all the strings. Then, the harassment took a darker turn. I found dead animals, rabbits, a possum, even a cat, left on my porch like some sick warning. But here's the thing about bullies. They always overplay their hand. These idiots didn't cover their tracks. Tire tracks, clear as day, showed that it was Bradley Thornwick behind this. I had the evidence to back it up. And just when I thought things couldn't get worse, Dean Thornwick showed up on my property with a briefcase full of cash. He offered me $200,000 to walk away quietly, but I wasn't about to be bought. I hit record on my phone and asked him why. If this property was only worth $47,000, he was offering me $200,000. His face drained of color. I told him his threats didn't scare me. In fact, I had something far worse for them. We were going to fight back, legally, with everything we had. And so we did. It all came to a head in an emergency HOA meeting. Delilah was there, looking like a queen without her crown, and I was armed with everything I needed to crush her. I presented the documents. I presented the evidence. And by the end of it, Delilah's empire crumbled. Her family had illegally occupied my land for over a century. Her power, her wealth, all of it was built on lies. By the end of the meeting, the judge issued a permanent restraining order against the Thornwick family. No more harassment. No more threats. Just justice. 6 months later, I stood on my porch, looking out at the Millbrook Valley Heritage Festival, a celebration of real history, not some manufactured country club fantasy. The Thornwick family had accepted plea deals. Delilah was facing federal charges for corruption and conspiracy. As I watched the festival unfold, I realized something. Sometimes, you don't just restore cabin. Sometimes, you restore justice. And I wasn't the only one who'd won. So, what would you do if someone tried to steal your property? Would you fight back? Or let them walk all over you? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've got your own HOA horror story, share it. Trust me, I know how it feels.